Hi, I'm Emily and welcome back to my channel. This is another video in the beginner Cricut crafting series that I'm making. If you have never made anything with your Cricut before, this is a great video on how to get started. The previous video I posted was just basic tools and materials that you need to get started working with your Cricut. And now in this video, we are actually going to start making stuff. We're going to go into Design Space and I'm going to show you very basic how to work Design Space and how to work your Cricut, and I will show you how to cut vinyl and how to place that vinyl onto your blank. Let's get started. Alright, so when you first get your Cricut, you will have to download Design Space, create an account. Even if you're not paying for anything and you're just using the free version, you do have to create an account, and then you have to register your Cricut machine to your account in order to start making anything. So before we get into Design Space, I'm going to show you basics of the Cricut itself. So the Cricut that I have here is the Maker. Depending on which machine you have, it could look a little bit different. I also have the Cricut Explore Air, and it is a little bit longer than the Cricut Maker, but they generally do have the same design and they work the same way. So your Cricut can look a little bit different, but it's gonna work the same. So on the left, you have a holder for tools, and then to open it, you're gonna lift up the top. That stays up, and pull down the bottom, and that stays down. On the left, you have clamp A, and on the right, you have clamp B. Clamp A, I mainly use for like markers or pens, and clamp B is where your blade goes. So right now I have the fine point blade loaded into my Cricut. There are other blade options, but the Cricut, when you first buy it, it will come with the fine point blade. If you're cutting vinyl or using print and cut to cut stickers, you are going to be using the fine point blade. You could take out the blade if you want to replace it or clean it or whatever. It comes in the housing, and then when you press the top down, that's where the blade is. So I'm just gonna put that, I just wanted to show you, I'm just putting that back in. To turn it on, you just press the power button once. And the far left button is to insert and remove your mat. The middle button is the cutting button, and then the right button is to pause it. This is just a close-up of what the buttons look like. When you're cutting, the mat will go all the way into the back of your Cricut, so you want to make sure that there's enough space between the back of your Cricut and the wall. I will move mine forward when I am cutting, so that way my mat isn't just like slamming against the wall and messing up my project. And then this rod is where your Cricut is going to grip your mat and hold it in place. And this is the mat that you will be loading into your Cricut. And you really want to make sure with your mat that you're lining it up properly. So you don't want it to be like off center, askew. You want to make sure that it's nicely lined up with these two little corners here. They're going to help guide your mat correctly into your Cricut. And when you insert your mat into your Cricut, it's supposed to like really hold on to it. So you can see like I'm tugging a little bit and it is just stuck right in there. That's great. That's what you want. And then when you take it out, you could take it out really easily. And yeah. Okay, so now we're going into Design Space. So this is what it looks like when you open it up. Again, you should have created an account and registered your Cricut machine. But over on the left, you could click on Inspire, Discover. Those just kind of bring up like images and projects to help inspire you to create things. And also the images are nice. It's mainly geared towards like things that you have been looking at recently. Obviously, I've been looking at a lot of fall stuff right now. And then you could also go to My Stuff, but if you're just starting, you won't have anything there. So you're gonna go up to the top right, click on New Project. And this is gonna bring you to just a blank canvas here. It has both a horizontal and vertical grid. Over on the left-hand side, you have the option to click New for making a new project. Templates, projects, shapes, images, text, monogram, and then upload. Upload is for if you want to like import your images into Design Space to then be able to print them and cut them with your Cricut. You could also zoom in and out. I'm just gonna leave it at 100% for right now. And I'm gonna start with a text. So I'm gonna click text and it comes up like this. I'm gonna type my name just for like showing purposes. And then up at the top left, you're gonna click on Operation. And this pulls down a menu where you can either cut it or you could choose to draw, like if you're using a pen or scoring or engraving, stuff like that. You could choose operation type. You could also choose print then cut, but for today's purpose, we're just sticking with basic cut. And then next to it is the color of whatever image you have selected at that time. I'm just gonna change it. You can make it whatever color you want. If you click on advanced, it brings up all the different colors that you could possibly make. If you click on edit, you could copy, paste. Arrange is arranging the layers. You could flip your image. Offset, I do have another video on that, but it's just making basically a border around your image or font. You could also play around with different warping options for your text. And then this is, you could increase or decrease the size. You could either click on the little arrows or just type in whatever size you want. And then next we have the font options. So the Cricut comes with a pre-selected amount of fonts. If it's your first time using it, you won't have any downloaded fonts or anything like that. So like my bookmarked fonts and my system fonts, these are ones that I've downloaded from different websites. And these are the ones that I use the most often. But for today's purpose, we're gonna go back to Cricut and just choose a font that anyone would be able to use. And then over on the right, we can group or ungroup with that button, duplicate or delete. And then down here, we don't have anything to do this with right now. You have the option to weld, unite different images together. We're not going to get into that right now, but that is down there on the right. I'm going to resize this, just make it a little bit bigger so it's easier for you guys to see what I'm doing. I am going to add an image just so I can show you. Now, if you need to filter through like what's free and what you get with your subscription, we're going to go over here to the little filter option and click on free. And then you could also filter by operation type, which is nice if you're looking for like print then cut. And these are the only free options, but it's fine. We're going to click on one. And once you click on it, it adds it to your canvas. And then again, we're just gonna resize this because sometimes when they get added to your canvas, they're like giant and we don't need them that big. And I want them both to be the same color. So I'm gonna go over on the right and click on Color Sync. And then I'm going to drag the cloud up into the Emily and then it makes it the same color. You can save this with a title. I don't want to save this, so I'm not going to. You're going to go up to the top right and hit Make. And then we're going to click on Matte. The matte size is 12 by 12, and then this is what it looks like. So you can drag your images, your fonts all around the mat, anywhere that you want to put it. It doesn't really matter, but it defaults to the top left. So we need to cut out a piece of vinyl that's going to be big enough. So we need to make sure that it is 5 by 2. And then once you hit continue, Design Space is going to connect with your Cricut machine via Bluetooth, which is really nice. So it just takes a few seconds to get it to connect. If it's your first time, it may take a little bit longer. And then you're gonna choose your materials. So I have a bunch of materials bookmarked already because I use them a lot. But we could go over here to browse all materials and it will bring up literally every single material. There's so many. You could scroll through and find which one you're looking for whatever project you're doing. But for the most part, I'm just using vinyl with my default pressure setting. Every Cricut machine does cut a little bit differently, so you may have to play around with the material and pressure settings to find one that works best for your machine. This is what works best for me and my Cricut. So now we're going to cut out our vinyl. So I'm going to stick with white vinyl today. And again, I need to cut out a piece of vinyl that is 5 by 2. So that's what I'm doing now. Here it is, and I'm gonna place that onto my mat. And you just wanna make sure that you're placing your piece of vinyl in the exact place that you have your images on the mat in Design Space. So remember, it was the very top left is usually where it defaults to. So that is where I'm gonna be placing my vinyl. And then I'm using my scraper tool to just gently scrape and make sure there's no wrinkles or air bubbles in the vinyl before I insert it into my Cricut. Making sure that the mat is nicely lined up with the guides. I'm going to click the button to insert the mat. And once the Cricut is ready to start cutting, I'm going to press that button once and the Cricut pretty much does the rest. And once your Cricut is done cutting, the unload mat button will start blinking, and then you could just press that and easily unload your mat. You could see, I don't know, it's kind of hard to tell with my camera, but it is cut and ready to go. So I always remove my mat from my vinyl, so I flip it upside down and remove the vinyl that way. It prevents bending or damaging your vinyl. So the next step, we're going to weed it. So I'm taking my weeding tool. So I'm just going to weed inside the E, the L, the Y first and get all of those little spaces out of the way. And then I'm going to weed the whole thing. If it starts coming off, I just hold it down with my finger and then it usually is fine from there. So you're gonna weed anything that you don't want to stick onto your blank. So what you're left with is your design. So then I had already cut a piece of transfer tape that is around the same size as my design. Ideally, you would want it to be like a little bit bigger if you're placing it all on at once, but I'm going to remove the sticky transfer tape from the backing and then save that backing because when I'm done, I like to just reuse my transfer tape. So I'll put the tape back onto that backing when I'm done. So we're taking the sticky side and placing that right on top of the design. And then I'm taking my scraper tool again and I am scraping both sides. And then we take that backing, we could throw that backing out, we don't need that anymore. And what we're left with is our design stuck onto the transfer tape, and then we're just sticking the transfer tape onto our blank. yeah, so you're gonna figure out exactly where you want to put this, because once you place it on, you will not be able to take it off without like damaging it and then having to like redo the entire thing. So you want to make sure that you really get it in the place that you want it. And then once you're completely sure, you're just gonna place it down and scrape it again with the scraper tool. And then once you give it a good scrape and you think it's secure, you're going to peel the transfer tape off and the vinyl will stick to your blank. We're going to do the same thing with the cloud here. So I'm taking this same piece of transfer tape and placing it right over the cloud, scraping it, and then peeling off the backing. And then again, once I know exactly where I'm placing it, I'm just pressing it right onto that glass. Scrape it again, and then peel the transfer tape off. I like to take the transfer tape off slow if I'm working with something delicate in case it doesn't stick, but this worked great. And then you're gonna take that backing that we saved from the transfer tape and stick that just right back on there. And the transfer tape should be good for a few more uses. And there we go, it's simple as that. This is pretty much all it entails. You could tell if I scrape it with my nail, it's on there. Like, it's not really coming off. It'll take a lot to scrape it off of this glass. But yeah, there we go. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope that it was helpful for some of you. And there is definitely more videos like this to come in the future. If you want to see more crafting content from me, just subscribe to my channel and you will get notified when I post a new video. And I will see you in the next one.